Good morning, everyone. We're so excited that you're joining us again today. This is our third week doing our talks, the HERD conversation, which is the Health Empowerment Reset. But before we begin, I want to emphasize about the disclaimer that anything that we present today is just for educational purpose only. It is not to diagnose or treat anything. So my name is Martha King, and I'm a health coach here in PA. And today's topic is going to be about the health in the gut. So we're excited about both of these topics because they're both brains. You know, the gut is the second brain, and the amazing impact that how these organs synchronize and interconnect each other throughout our 24 hours of our day. So, all right. So Asha, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. My name is Asha Scatchard. I am an energy practitioner, and I have a practice in York, and my website is energybodyworks.com. So I'm very happy to be here, and we're going to have a great program. So Martha, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Asha. All right, at this time, I'm just going to give the floor to Theresa. She can just pretty much, tell the world who you are and what you do, and then begin with the topic.
Hey, thank you so much, Martha and Asha. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Theresa Espenshade. I live in central Pennsylvania. I'm originally from Pittsburgh. And I have been trained as an educator, as a certified natural health practitioner, a clinical aromatherapist, and now as a certified brain health coach. And so I have been working with clients since the early 90s on taking care of their health. And this came to me through my own health concerns, which I am so dear to the brain and the gut because of my own health concerns, which is how most people do their walk and journey in life. So I wanted today to talk about my business is Nature's Balance Holistic Health Coaching. My mission is to help people do their best and be their best. And my acronym for BEST is Brain and Body Energy, which Asha, I loved your talk, and we'll talk more. I start with you and I end with you as far as energy. Brain and body energy synchronized securely together. And when the brain and the body have any kind of dysfunction, I'd like to say disconnect first, which may lead to dysfunction, not a defect, just a dysfunction, that then the system is not working properly. So today I'd like to talk about 7 informational points that are really important for as neuroscience information moves forward for brain, body, and especially brain gut health. Okay, so I always find in all my education that it's really empowering to use a model. So brain bit number 1 is we all have one brain. Okay, one brain. It's 100 billion neurons of nerve cells, connections, all communicating with each other through chemical and electrical pathways. It's 2% of our body's weight, uses 25% of the calories, 80% of the water and oxygen. It's the only organ of loving, learning, behaving, intelligence, personality, character, belief, and knowing. One brain. Brain bit number 2, 2 hemispheres. So we have 2 sides. Everyone has 2 sides to their brain, and for specialization. So we're working with one brain, 2 sides, and they're specialized. Right side is more global. We usually say seeing the forest through the trees. Left side, more analytical. We focus on the trees. One brain, 2 sides. Brain bit number 3 is that we work, the brain has 3 parts. And on my nice little model, you can see that the lobes are colored. But in the Paul MacLean in the 1960s talked about the triune brain, that there's 3 parts, the forebrain, which is the newest brain, the midbrain, okay, inside, which is our second oldest brain, and then the hindbrain, which is the cerebellum and the pons And the brain stem leading to the spine is our oldest brain, where the reflexes, autonomic nervous system are. Okay, so we have those three parts, but they work in three dimensions. They work in our front to back, okay, with our body. They work side to side, and they work top to bottom. And we need to really keep that brain-body connection balanced at all time with our brain and our body together in those three dimensions and those three parts. Okay, one brain, two hemispheres, three parts, four lobes. And you can see on my brain that they are colored. So we have our frontal lobe, okay, the newest part of the brain. Okay, after the frontal lobe, which is our CEO and our master boss, we then have the temporal lobe right above our ears for hearing and language. We have our parietal lobe for senses and motor movement, and our occipital lobe for vision. Okay, so one brain, two hemispheres, three parts, four lobes, five senses. We all have five senses. And the most important part about that is that we think about our senses in terms of seeing and hearing and tasting, and of course touch, which all have to go inside to the thalamus to work. But the only one, and Julie's not here today, and I wanted to talk a bit about aromatherapy, the only sense that doesn't have to go through that processor, through that relay station, the thalamus, is smell, our olfactory system. Because the olfactory nerve bulb is the closest we come to the outside world. And we'll talk about in that great brain-gut connection how powerful aromatherapy and smell can be for optimizing your health. One brain, two hemispheres, three parts, four lobes, five senses, six. Most important part for me, because this is where I do most of my work. I work with the Dr. Daniel Amen Centers. That's who my brain health coaching is through. And he talks about 6 brain systems. And this is where we really connect which brain system is not operating to its most optimal level and what can we do about it. So those 6 brain systems, the first one is we function, like Martha said, day in and day out, every day, 24 hours. The first brain system is the prefrontal cortex, okay? The newest part of the brain. It is the supervisor, the CEO. And I like to think of it, if we're gonna call it the PFC, use that as an acronym. Planning, focus, control of emotions. Okay. Second part that Dr. Amen talks about is our ACG, or anterior, right, but this yellow part here, our anterior cingulate gyrus. So important because it's our gear shifter. When you, as a person, as a human being, and the human doing that we are usually during the day, we shift between human doings and human beings, our gear shifter, use that ACG again. Our gear shifter, when it's in balance, helps us to act positively, gives us cognitive flexibility, and it helps us to shift gears back and forth with that flexibility. When you become someone that really stays with a thought and you just are pervasive about that thought, your anterior cingulate gyrus is just not, it's too hot, working too hard. So we need to get that back in balance. Our third part is the basal ganglia, which is right under that anterior cingulate gyrus. It's our anxiety center. And we know so much in this 21st century about dealing with anxiety. That part is really about integration of our thoughts and our feelings with movement. So if it's working too much, we work too hard. If it's working too little, we have low motivation. Moving on to the fourth part system is our deep limbic system, the part near and dear to my heart, because this is where aromatherapy works. This is where your hormones are produced. The second oldest part of the brain, which is our survival. We survive to be able to have emotions, get away when we needed to fight or flee or freeze whenever needed. And that's in this part of the brain that aromatherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy can help so much. Our fifth system is the temporal lobe system, right above the ears, which is really about temper and language and mood stability. If there's someone's dealing with a bit of aggression, you can think of temporal lobe as temper. That's where we need to work on that. And then the sixth one is our cerebellum, our mini brain, where Dr. Amen calls our cerebellum the most unregarded part of the brain, and so important because we think about it just for coordination, but at all times it's working with our PFC. There's a direct connection between the two of them. So we have one brain, two hemispheres, three parts, four lobes, five senses, six brain systems that we need to keep in balance and harmony at all times, and seven, coming to Asha, is our seven energy centers. We can never, ever discount, we are just energy. So those seven energy centers, from the crown to the third eye, to the throat, to the heart, to the solar plexus, to the sacral, to the root, keeping those energy centers in harmony with the physicalness of the brain is how we really achieve our most optimized role in our relationships and in our work with our fellow human beings. So in review, one brain, two hemispheres, three parts operating in three dimensions, four lobes, four function, five senses, six brain types, and seven energy centers. Doing our best, being our best is keeping our brain systems and our body systems, respiration, circulation, digestion, in balance and harmony with each other. And then we will move into the brain-gut relationship, which is that direct connection. Martha, Asha, do you have any questions about any of those seven aspects or points?
No, that's amazing. I love what you did. I love you having the brain and just put it on pieces apart and just, you know, that's an amazing visual. And I know a lot of the people out there are going to appreciate how you present it and, you know, just talking about each individual component and how it impacts. So I'm just sitting here listening when you talk about the emotions, when you talk about just how it behaves, and the whole time I'm thinking the hormones, and the whole time thinking of the gut, and you know how those two, and I'm excited to hear the rest, how those two are synchronized, because the impact of our feelings that we have every day. You know, sometimes when you say, oh my gosh, I have a gut feeling about something, and you're thinking about that, but then the feeling is in your stomach, you know, in your gut. And so that's something I like for you to talk about the viewers about. Asha, do you have any questions for?
Well, I'm excited because of Theresa bringing in the chakra system, and that's my playground, you could say. And I think it's just wonderful that where Theresa is, they're integrating that component of our life and the importance of it. So I think this is beautiful. It's all yours, Theresa.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So that was the very exciting part for me, as far as Asha and Julie doing their presentations, because being a clinical aromatherapist, I wanted to really springboard off of some of the things that Julie said, and definitely I actually have some certifications in emotionally and healing touch, which is the energy part of it, and can't work without that. So we really need to, especially for the 21st century, we really need to bring that so much more into focus, into harmony with how we're working with the body. Okay, and as we really refer people in our networks to each other, it makes it so much more powerful. Mm-hmm. So the brain-gut connection, which is so near and dear to my heart, because this is how I started my walk and my journey to really bringing the best of standard traditional medicine and what we know as holistic health together. And I didn't realize it at the time, but in the early 80s, when I was having my children, I was having great problems with allergies in the area, was tested allergic to all 70 things in the environment. was taking shots, was taking medications, and raising 3 children and teaching elementary school. So it was quite the dish. The plate was full. And but what I came to realize through my own journey and working with many great people at the time, always leading us forward, I found that I started this in college, and I had really ruined my gut health during my college education because of my nutrition, my alcohol consumption, my stress, and my aids that I was using to relieve all that. The medical products that were there at the time, I was using those, the antacids, to help, which they did. But I didn't realize at the time, and we did not have the information at the time. We just knew as women that this wasn't how our systems were supposed to work. And came to find out now, especially for the 21st century, that it is the gut-brain connection, now called the microbiome. So I'd like to spend a bit of time on that, because I have worked for the past 40 years to really make that a healthy area. So in utero, as those cells are dividing and preparing for new life, as a human being, science has shown that those cells divide in the gut first. Those are the first cells to develop. And all of those other organs are coming out of the gut, especially the heart, the intestinal area, the stomach, the intestinal area, the liver, pancreas, all those things that are needed for a healthy digestion. And now we know for a healthy immune system. So this talk right now is really about brain-gut connections for a healthy immune system. And I say to my clients all the time, your strongest defense is a healthy immune system. And everyone is unique and different, and your needs might not be my needs. So we really need to be so focused on just really learning about our own self and our own gut microbiome. So it makes perfect sense that our gut is even more interesting now and needed now, because we now know scientifically that there are as many neurons or even more neurons in the gut than there are in the spine. So when you really take that front of your body and the back of your body, and most people know, especially because if they've gone to any kind of other practitioner, chiropractic or anything else, they know how important their spine energy is. But now we have this whole front of the body, and it's not just about digestion. It truly is about immunity. Because actually most people don't realize this, 90% of the serotonin that's produced in your body is produced in your gut. We think of it as a brain chemical, but it's really happening in your gut. Not only serotonin, but 90% of the hormones in your body are produced in your gut. So we need to really look at that connection, because we've always thought in terms of the brain controlling the body. And now we really know that the gut has just an influence on the brain. So what's happening in your gut first could actually be then influencing all those neurochemicals and then those electrical charges. Don't forget that electrical part of our bodies that's happening in the brain, and those connections and those neural pathways, and then develop into our patterns and our behaviors, whether they are healthy or unhealthy. One of the most important things about this talk is to think about that we have our central nervous system and we have our autonomic nervous system. So we think about that quite a bit. Most people are familiar with that. But the gut is called the enteric nervous system. It can act independently of the brain. And we're thinking scientifically that adaptation happened for human beings because we couldn't always just think about if we needed to stop our digestion and our sympathetic nervous system and make our respiration higher to flee or to fight. And so we needed to have that in two separate parts where the brain didn't have to control that this became more just on an automatic response. But within that, because of it being the area that has so many chemicals being produced, hormones being produced, and then the whole gut microbiome. We have a whole world, an inner world of microbes, trillions of inhabitants living with us in supposed to be a healthy environment, because they're working for us at all times. And autoimmune, in terms of our gut, just means friendly fire. Our gut is saying, hey, I'm doing my job. I don't recognize what you're putting in here. And whether it be toxic chemicals, poor nutrition, and poor nutrition can be different for you than it is for me. My nutritional needs will be different than your nutritional needs. So we really need to think in terms of that whole landscape, that whole ecosystem that's happening right within our bodies that we're living with every day, and we really don't give much thought to. But it's thinking about us all the time, and we know it because what's happening in the thoughts and the feelings and the beliefs and then the behaviors in our brain. So that's just like the really the outline of the gut-brain connection. And it is this, most people are now familiar with the microbiome, but learning more about your own personal microbiome and that relationship will be one of the most powerful and optimizing things you can do for your own personal health.
Thank you. That's a topic that it has to be spread up in different parts. I mean, it's so enormous. And so this little bit of time that we have is not enough time, but you touch some amazing highlights connecting both of them and the impact of our gut. You know, people just think about, we just have a stomach and intestines, but the bacteria that we have, you know, we are a big walking bacteria, and we need to cultivate that. And we've been killing that good bacteria, and it's affecting, by killing the bad one, it's affecting the good one that we need to survive. We don't have that, we could die. So yeah, amazing, wonderful. And so this is something, you know, we're gonna come back and bring you on board, you know, as we expand this topic later on. So
and one of those areas is leaky gut, which will be, you know, another phrase that many people are hearing.
Yes.
Really came about in the 90s, in the 20th century. But now people, especially physicians, are really understanding this and making great connections with, because that layer, that membrane of the gut is so thin, and it covers 9 tennis courts. I mean, it's unbelievable, the span of it, but it's so thin that permeability, and for any foreign particle to leak through that membrane, and then, you know, your body is just saying, I'm doing my job. I have something I don't recognize as healthy and going to make us happy, and I am going to do my job and send the immune system in defense. And once we really understand how that works, and do some positive self-talk there also, as well as to our brain, and using what we know now as far as some of the benefits of aromatherapy, breath work, very, very simple things, you know, from just a more regulated breath or a more meditated thought, positive thought, to supplements and exercise and nutrition. You know, everybody can do a small part.
Oh, for sure.
That leads to big changes.
Yeah.
Right. Small steps to big changes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was very enjoyable, and our time is running out here. So to all viewers out there, we want to thank you for your time, and I know you enjoyed this powered conversation we have today. And we're going to bring it forward with other topics related to the microbiome and then the gut. So I thank you for your time. I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.